Okay. All right. So, welcome everyone to the volume three of Loudmouth Truth. We got special guests today. Three special guests. We got starting off the first African American black quarterback from Oklahoma University. So I'm very excited about that. We got one of the most decorated ever in the state of Oklahoma athlete, Melvin Gilliam. We also have my and also a lot of other legendary coach, Lamar Burks from Booker T. Washington. Also, as that my grandma would say, Booker Washington. Uh, these guys are going to introduce themselves while they do that, and also we got the guest this week again, Coach Leslie Johnson out of Oklahoma City. Uh, as you know, he's a introductional speaker, motivational speaker, and a community leader, as well as coach. And then you got me as well as a host. So I'm gonna let these guys go ahead and give their introductions, and we're gonna start on our show today. The title of the show today is "How Did Black Players Adapt to Division One Pressures and Integration?" Go ahead, Coach Lott.
All right, my name's Thomas Lott. I am not from Oklahoma. I'm from Texas, South Texas, San Antonio, and I learn a lot about Oklahoma through gentlemen like yourselves. So some of this history of football over the years, I was in Texas trying to survive there and make a name for myself there. So I'm definitely interested in listening to you gentlemen and learning about the history of black players in the state of Oklahoma.
My name is Lamar Burks. I am a Tulsa Booker T. Washington graduate. Attended college, Southwestern College, Winfield, Kansas. Retired Tulsa Public Schools teacher. Have started a museum in the Booker T. Washington Historical Center as well as the Nathan E. Harris Field House. And some of these guys I grew up watching and emulating. Others I had the opportunity to be on the staff to coach them. And just like Tom, I'm more interested in hearing what they have to say because they were like the front runners of issues that we're dealing with today.
All right. I'll go ahead and introduce myself real quick. My name is Melvin Gilliam. Booker T. Washington graduate. Currently working in the banking industry. Uh, just a community guy. I just believe in helping kids, man. It don't matter what school they go to, who their parents are, any of that stuff. If I can help them get an opportunity to go to college and get to the next level, that's what I want to do. So that's kind of what I'm doing now. That's my extracurricular activity is pretty much helping and mentoring kids. But I'm looking forward to it because although Thomas Lott is a good friend, I really consider him a good friend. He has what he's done to start history. I can't wait to hear about it. So this is going to be a great show.
Oh, my name is Leslie Johnson. I am a
Mute your mic,
activist.
Coach Burks.
Uh,
My name is Leslie Johnson. I am an activist. And teacher. I grew up in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, where I still reside. I've been a football player, a coach. Like I said again, I am totally. I've been working with youth since I was about 18 years old, and that's my passion. going back, like one of the African symbols is a sankofa, and it means to go back and replant. And that was given to me as a child. Many of men and women have planted my life value, and that's one of my things with teaching now. I teach at Millwood High School, middle school, high school, and I've been knowing Coach West since our days in Northwest Classroom, where we coach at Northwest Classroom, and um, and so anyways, that's really enough about me. I'm just excited to have y'all guys be able to talk with you guys, as they want to say, break bread, not physically, but spiritually, break bread, and to talk to Coach Lott. I was really interested knowing what I've known about him. My uncle grew up. He's an older gentleman, but he grew up talking about you, Coach. And one of my cousins is Stanley Wilson, playing like 83, 84 era at OU. So I'm really interested in hearing what you got to say. But that's enough of me, and I'm off.
Okay, I guess that cues me. Again, I'm very honored to have all three gentlemen, including Bless, on this show. I think this show is very informative to our young people. That's why I'm here. I want the young people to be aware of the great young men that they have around them so they can resource these men like I have. Melvin has mentioned to me how he has every year has this golf tournament, and also he's going to have a new, or he's been doing it, but it's going to ramp it up even more of a black college recruiting young black men, uh, ex-pro and ex-collegiate players to come back to the community in Tulsa, as well as other black communities around, all communities, not just black, but all communities, to help the youth. And I'm excited about that. We are partnering with him. The Loudmouth Show is going to partner with Melvin and others of his great leaderships. You'll be amazed of the type of people that he has at his disposal. So I appreciate that. One of the first questions tonight that I'm bringing to the table, and I wanted to ask this of Melvin, all three of you gentlemen, because y'all both played in Division I and II colleges. What made you guys decide to try out Division I state schools instead of HBCUs?
Thomas, go ahead and start, Thomas.
Well, I can tell you for me, in my neighborhood, I only knew two gentlemen that even went to college. We were just struggling in my community just to graduate high school. So when I got an opportunity to go to college, I didn't even know I was going to college until February and end up at OU in August. So to be quite honest with you, college was not something that I pursued. It was something that I worked hard at what I was doing, and the good Lord put me in a position so that I could go to college. And I can tell you now, and I told my sons this, my oldest son ended up going to Rice University and playing there. And as we were driving there, he was telling me that he was really scared to go to college. And I explained to him, I wasn't scared to play football, because that's what I did. That was my thing. I felt like I could have played anywhere. But my problem was I didn't know if I was material to even go to college and be eligible enough to play. So that right there was the thing that I had to overcome, as well as the players I had to beat out. And we speaking of a black player, here I am I'm coming to a university of Oklahoma who had just won 2 national championships. And I studied film. When I came on my recruiting trip, they asked me, you want to go to the party? You want to go do this? I came to University of Oklahoma strictly for business. And I asked for film on every quarterback that they had coming back. And those 2 days I was in Norman, I studied film. I watched each one of them so that I could see if I really felt like coming to the University of Oklahoma and playing quarterback, even though I was an All-American, if it was going to be possible for me, or was I going to have to wait around because they had just won a national championship. And after I studied that film, I knew there were 2 guys that were coming back. There were three of them that were graduating, but I knew there were 2 of them that I had to beat out. One of them was Dean Blevins. And you talk about a guy who was white. He was from Norman, went to Norman High School. He was, I don't know if he was all state, but from everything I gathered, he was highly recruited out of state of Oklahoma. I didn't know that much about Oklahoma when I came here. I had to learn all of that on the run. So I knew that those things were against me when I was going to come, and I didn't care about that. I knew I could play football, and I knew that by watching film, he wasn't a better athlete than I was. So I decided to come to University of Oklahoma because of the offense that they ran. And I think I made the best decision I could have possibly made. Me being an All-American, I was being recruited by just about every college in the country. And I knew I had only been a quarterback for a year and a half. A guy got injured my junior year, and the coach called me to the sideline. I was a running back, starting corner. I didn't come off the field. Ran back punch, kickoff, did all of that. And he called me to the sideline. He said, Thomas, well, he really didn't say my name. He just said, I need you to go to quarterback. And I turned around because I thought there was somebody behind me. And he said, no, I need you to move to quarterback because I played wide receiver, defensive back. I was all conference defensive back as a sophomore. I was the team captain as a sophomore. I was running back. I did all these, but I never played quarterback. And he told me, hey, I need you to move to quarterback. We ran the wishbone. I'm a team player. I'm going to do what I can to try to win. I went in there. He said, hey, I will send the play in. I will tell you what to do. And basically all I did was fake the ball and run around the end, or give the ball to a friend of mine who ended up at Texas Tech and New York Giants. His name was Billy Taylor, and that's what we did. And both of us ended up rushing for 100 yards that day. And he told me after the game, I'm going to leave you at quarterback for the rest of the year. And therefore, I started playing quarterback as a junior. And that next year, I became All-American and got recruited. And a lot of people were running the wishbone back then. So I had opportunities to go to a lot of schools back then. But if I was going to play quarterback, I knew I needed to be in an offense I was a little more familiar with. Most of the guys had started playing quarterback at an early age. I didn't. And I kind of looked at things as I was behind all these quarterbacks, but they were putting me in a position that ended up being tailor-made for me. That offense was an offense. I tell people, I love that offense because it gave me the opportunity to show people something special. And I went into every game saying, I want everybody to leave this stadium and have seen something they might not ever see again. And that offense gave me the opportunity to do that. And I could tell people, until I had my first son, the wishbone was my baby. And I wanted the world to see how beautiful my baby was. So that's how tied in I was to the wishbone.
Awesome.
Wow,
Listen, go
that's
ahead, Les.
amazing.
I like that's unbelievable.
you know, Coach Lott, that's interesting. And again, I'm kind of like the odd man out on here because well, you grew up in Texas, but there I went to Tulsa. I'm Oklahoma City guy again, and so growing up in Oklahoma City, I went to Douglas again, and we ran the wishbone and in high school, and that's all we ran. And by you saying that, like everybody was running, we ran the wishbone. My coach, Stanford White, he ran the wishbone until we graduated, and probably after we graduated. So that's really interesting that you say that about the wishbone, because that definitely give all the athletes like yourself a huge advantage. A huge advantage over most, like you said, Dean Blevins. I know he wasn't. Well, I think I seen a little bit of tape on him, but by him being a quarterback gave you a huge advantage.
I grew up around the wishbone. As a matter of fact, Thomas, we used to on an off week, Booker T, we used to come to Norman and watch OU practice. And my quarterback was Melvin Barnes. Depending on what newspaper you read, the Tulsa World or the Daily Oklahoman, the best quarterback in the state was Melvin Barnes or Dean Blevins. Melvin went on to sign a scholarship to the University of Kansas. Dean, as you know, went to the University of Oklahoma. A lot of us felt like Melvin should have been the state player of the year, but since the Daily Oklahoman was based out of Oklahoma City, we feel like they showed a little favoritism to Dean Blevins. But the Booker T. Washington Hornets was the best team in the state that year. And, we learned a lot about that. We learned a lot from as far as diversity and being around different players of different color and things like that. But when you brought up Dean Blevins' name, it kind of made me sit up in my chair, because if you ask Dean Blevins about Melvin Barnes, I'm sure he'd have a lot of great things to say about Melvin Barnes. And again, whichever media you read, you really didn't know who the best quarterback was, but I think it was our quarterback. Not taking anything away from Dean Blevins, but I just thought I'd throw that in there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well,
I'll tell you what, man.
I'll tell you at one point, there was a period there, because as I traveled around and did my recruiting, and you got to understand, there was probably only at that time in major college, I'm thinking of only 4 black quarterbacks that were starting at the time. And most of these different places that I went to, a lot of them were telling me, Thomas, they're not going to play you. They're not ready to play a black quarterback. So I got that at different universities that I went to. But my mother really put us in a position to do more than just listen to what people say. I mean, since I was in elementary school, we didn't go to the predominantly black high school or middle school that was in our neighborhood. She had us leave our neighborhood and go to a predominantly white school. And there were things that we had to learn and how to live in 2 different worlds, because all of the friends in my neighborhood, they all went to the black schools, and we did. So I hung out with them on the weekends in the neighborhood, but for school, we went somewhere else. She put me in a position to be able to survive in the world, the white world and the black world, is what she did, because I had a lot of friends that they could not handle the white world. And there were one guy in particular, everybody always talks about my bandana that I wore. And I really wasn't trying to make a statement. We wore big afros back then. And to be honest with you, it had a little bit more to do with vain than anything because I didn't like the way my afro looked when I took my helmet off. So I tried a few other things. We had a guy named Doug Morgan from Louisiana. And I asked him one day, Doug, how do you tie that? And he showed me how to tie it. And I couldn't wear it tied up like he does, like he did. So the reason it hung down under my helmet is because there was a knot back there. And I had to let that hang up under my helmet. So that right there wasn't anything I was trying to make a statement or anything. People made that bandana more than it really was. You know, it was just something that I did. But my opportunity to come to the University of Oklahoma was, like I said, there were other schools and other players, and I'm talking about their players were cornering me and telling me they're not going to play a black quarterback here, and they're not going to do it here, and they're not going to do it there. And the one thing that Coach Switzer did tell me was, if I come to the University of Oklahoma, he's going to give me an opportunity to start at Oklahoma. He didn't tell me you will start or anything like that. And for me, that's all I needed was just make sure you give me that opportunity to play. Well, my sophomore year, Dean inherited the position. He was a year older than me, and that's another thing. He was a year older. He had been here a year. He was white. He was from Norman. He was all state here in Oklahoma. And these are things that I knew I had to overcome. But I knew I was a better athlete than he was. And all I needed them to do is just give me the opportunity and I would do the rest. Well, my sophomore year, we started out and I felt like by the fourth game, I would be getting an opportunity to prove that I was a better quarterback than him. Well, the third game, we're playing Iowa State. I didn't play a down. I mean, not one down. And Dean wasn't playing well. First two games, he did not play well. That third game, I got to tell you, I quit. Mentally, I had quit because I was like, everything, and even when I got to OU, you know, there were players on the team saying, Thomas, they're never going to play you. They didn't play Kerry Jackson, which was a great, great quarterback. And I didn't understand why he wasn't playing ahead of Steve Davis until a couple of years later, as I learned. Well, that third game, I thought, okay, I'll get this opportunity to get in this game and show them what I could do. I did not play not one down. I was angry. I was angry that Saturday night. Mentally, I had quit. I had I'm leaving. Everything everybody's saying is true. They're not going to play me. But I went to sleep that night, angry as I was, and we always watch film on Sunday. I walked in there Sunday, and they called me in the office and said, we're not happy with Dean Blevins right now. We're not happy with his play. We are going to give you an opportunity to win the position, but this is how we're going to do it. We're going to put Dean in the game, let him start. If he doesn't move the ball, then we're going to put you in, and we're going to keep doing this until one of you rolls up and prove that this is your team. It wasn't ideal. It wasn't a situation where I was real happy about the situation, but it was more than I had the week before. And so I'm like, okay, we both work in a one huddle. And that Tuesday, Dean started to have some problems. And I'm talking about physically, he started having some problems. Well, he told me about it, and I was like, Dean, tell the trainer, because I wanted him to be healthy. I did not want to finish the season with us doing that. I wanted to have an opportunity to prove I was better and be done with that. Well, the following Wednesday, he came in there, and I could see at practice he was hurting. And I said, didn't you talk to the trainer? And he's like, nah, I didn't talk to him. And I'm like, I didn't tell him, but I needed him. I wanted him to be healthy. I wanted to do this. When he was healthy, I was healthy. Well, end up that Wednesday, Dean ended up being in the hospital. They called me in the meeting room and tell me, look, Dean's in the hospital. He's not going to play this week. You are going to start. And I didn't say anything. And Coach Switzer and Coach Hall said, well, what do you think about that? And I told them, that's the reason I came here. And that was against the University of Texas. That was the first time I started, was against them. And I knew that he's not getting this position back. This is mine from now on.
Wow.
And I tell people this, I'm a very spiritual person. I'm not
I love it.
I'm not a real religious guy, but I am very spiritual. And I tell people all the time, there's no way in the world I could have known that I was going to start the 4th game of the year. I just don't know how I knew I was. And 15 years later, I know that God talked to me that night and told me, I told you you were going to start the 4th game of the year. This is the 3rd game, so calm yourself down and go back over there and practice. And that's what I did overnight. I let that anger leave me, and I went over there and I said, this is the 4th game, and he moved all obstacles out of my way, all of them. He didn't say I was going to play a little bit. He said I was going to start the 4th game. And that's what happened to me. That 4th game, I started, and from then on, I never looked back.
Wow. Melvin?
Coach, can I ask you a question?
Your question
Sure.
was,
Sure.
I want to ask you one of the questions I want to ask you, and you kind of alluded to it already, but I want to ask you, what type of pressures did you have being the first Black quarterback to play at the University of Oklahoma? Outside of you taking over Dean's job, once you secured that position, what other pressures did you have as being a Black quarterback, the first Black quarterback?
You know what? I tell people all the time, I don't succumb to pressure. I never have. I know what I can do. I study. I work hard. I don't listen to the chatter that people say, and I definitely got mail that there were people that didn't like that I was playing quarterback and I was Black, and to be quite honest with you, there were Black people that sent me mail talking about me wearing my bandana, I was setting Black people back 50 years by wearing my bandana. But I look at things like, those people are not on the field. They're not out there when it's 100+ degrees on the field, and they're not out there when I'm sick, but I got to be at practice. Not like it is now. Back then, they didn't care what was going on with you. You better be at practice and you better be out there, And we didn't have can't start practice until 6. If it was 115 out there on that turf, 125, we were out there, and we didn't have that. So I knew what I had to do. And number one, I've always been a competitor in anything that I've done, and I don't do it for other people. I do it for me, and I know what it takes for me to do that. I've been fortunate enough to have, all my years of playing football, I've only had 2 coaches that I can tell you that weren't good coaches. And that's so important, that you have good coaches that know the game, that know people, that care about people. And that's one reason I started coaching, because of all the things that they taught me, and they put me in a position to be successful and give me the answers to questions. And so when it came to the pressure, I did not know that there was pressure until my last game at the University of Oklahoma. Didn't feel it, didn't know it was there. It was just my life. It was just what I did. And I took the good with the bad. I felt like the people that I was surrounded by, my teammates, we were very, very close. My class of 75 is probably still considered one of the top recruiting classes in college football. I mean, I started for OU. The 3 years I started, 20 of those guys played in the NFL. So we had great talent. We had a coach, a head coach. Not all of our coaches understood us. My offensive coordinator, I said this on the radio the other day. I can't really say he was racist because I didn't know him that well, but either he was racist or he just was not comfortable around black people. And there is a difference. And so, but our head coach, he was comfortable. And that's one of the reasons I went there. I knew he was comfortable. I knew just being around him during recruiting and the things he said and how he carried himself, that he was comfortable being around black people. So I felt like going to the University of Oklahoma was going to be a good move for me. And that's why I did it. But I'm talking about, man, the players, like I said, I spent those 2 days studying film. So I really wasn't around any of the players except for Leroy and Peacock. They were showing me around. So they were the only two that I really saw. And once I got to the University of Oklahoma and we had our welcoming meeting, there was so many black faces. I thought I made a left turn somewhere and ended up at Grambling. There was so many black players on our team. So we just, as a family, we united very close together because a lot of us were from Texas. It was like 8 of us off the blue chip list that year that came to the University of Oklahoma. It was 8 of us. And that's when we start calling each other homeboy, because we're a bunch of us from Texas, and we just bonded together. And we're such family, and we've always been such family that I can't speak for them, but because of them, I didn't feel the pressure. It wasn't there. And I didn't know it was there, even though it was there. I didn't know it was there until to that last game. And then all of a sudden, I felt it.
Wow, that's a remarkable story. Um, just seeing all the tradition and some of the names you mentioned opened my eyes because Mel Blevins now he's a sports commentary for
Channel
one of
6,
the news stations.
KOTV 6.
Right. And I
Mm-hmm.
never knew that side of that. So that's very interesting to me. Um, so I'd like to hear from Melvin on this subject as well. Um, it sounds like you probably got recruited by some historically black colleges, universities, but
Yeah,
were they even
yeah.
in the run?
No, I never really considered a HBCU. Now I was a big fan of Gremlin because, as you know, Doug Williams was here.
Mm-hmm.
He played with that semi-pro football team, so I got to meet him, and I got to talk to him, and he talked about his, Gremlin and his experience there. But the only historically black college I could really relate to was Langston.
Right.
And I just it was just never really a consideration for me. Being like I came out of high school, I was in the top 10 football players in the country because I made every All-American you could make out of high school in football and basketball, as well as academics. So, I was like the number 3 football player in the country, and I was like the number 8 basketball player in the country. So at back then, they used to sign uh, an NCAA person to you if you were in the top 25 in any list to kind of make sure schools wasn't trying to buy you. So I had one assigned to me for football and basketball. Um, but going to a HBCU, I really honestly never really thought about it. I really never thought about playing football in my school. I really wanted to play basketball. But it was a guy named Matt Johnson that just ripped up. Used to the small guard was the thing. Matt Johnson came and the small guard went away when guys were 6'8" and could shoot and handle the ball just as good as a small guy. So that kind of wilted me a little bit, jilted me a little bit to say, man, maybe I need to look at this football thing. But, I really, growing up in Tulsa at Booker T, we had a lot of guys from Booker T go to Oklahoma State and go to OU because my thing was there were good enough schools in the state that I could go to and my family could come and see me play almost every week. So I knew I wanted to go to Oklahoma State or OU, and I was really leaning toward Oklahoma because of the history, because of the tradition. I mean, the year before, Patrick Collins went there. I grew up watching Thomas Lott because I was a quarterback in a bandana. We were all fans of Oklahoma because they were so successful. And when it came down to it, my senior year, I was trying to figure out which sport I wanted to play, football or basketball. And my high school basketball coach at the time, the late, great Nate Harris, he said, Melvin, why don't you play both sports? And I'm like, huh? He said, yeah, why don't you play both sports? So that kind of was a good thought. And I said, yeah, I'm going to try that. And Thomas can probably attest to this. In Norman, they wasn't having it because both of their teams were competing for national championships and they needed their players there 100% of the time. They wasn't going to split. I went to Coach Switzer. I said, Coach Switzer, you think you would let me play football and basketball? And he said, absolutely not. He said, we compete for national championships here. So I went to Coach Tubbs and said, Coach Tubbs, you think you would let me play football as well as basketball? He said, absolutely not. We compete for national championships here. So that kind of knocked Oklahoma out for me. So, Texas, Oklahoma State, UCLA were two of the schools that really were going to allow me to play, that were football schools that were going to allow me to play basketball. Now, there were a couple basketball schools that were going to allow me to play football, but they really didn't have good football programs back then. Louisville didn't have a good football program back then, so they would have let me play. Georgetown, really, I don't even recall Georgetown having a football team because those are the two schools, if I was going to play basketball, that I really wanted to go to. So when it came down to HBCUs, I would get letters from them. I got letters from Grambling and Alcorn State, Jackson State, a lot of the HBCU schools, but I never really considered them. I never really considered them seriously. So that was my thing with the HBCU.
Can I tell you one thing real quick while we're on that?
Sure.
This Thomas again. I'm just gonna say this. Do you know not one black college recruited me? They didn't send me a letter. They didn't try to recruit me. I mean, all my letters were coming from USC and
Wow.
Notre Dame and Texas and A&M and OU and Nebraska. You know, they were coming from those schools, but not one letter came. Not one representative from those colleges tried to contact me.
Well, I'll tell you, Thomas, here's on me. They didn't do any hard recruiting. If they saw you were an All-American, they almost figured that they didn't have a chance. So they wasn't going to expend any money, any time. They really wanted to go after players that they really felt they had a chance at. And if they would have known they had a chance at you, which they very well may have, Thomas, if they'd have came at you. But they thought with an All-American out of Texas, a football state, I guarantee you they were saying with Notre Dame and OU and Nebraska and Texas, all them schools after him, he not finna come to no rinky-dink school like we have. We don't have the facilities. We don't have the money. We don't play on TV. That's what they were. That's what they thought when I talked to some of those guys after I was playing. They said that was their kind of thought process. They didn't think they could get the big time athlete, and I bet you that's what it was.
Coach Burks?
Yeah, I want to go way back to the beginning of tonight's session when I can relate to something that Thomas Lott said when he basically said, correct me if I'm wrong, wherever I'm wrong, but I thought he said he grew up in a black neighborhood, but when he got to high school, his mother took him to another area of town, and so he could adapt to those different situations. And I kind of learned that too, growing up from elementary school, black school, middle school, black school, Booker T. Washington, voluntary integration. And in doing that and seeing that kind of diversity, it gave you an opportunity to adapt to whites, and it gave the whites an opportunity to adapt and appreciate blacks. And keep in mind that the whites that came to Booker T, they were whites from the metro area. And then when I played college football, I went to a small country town in Kansas, and I had to adapt again to, should I say, whites from a small town area. And that was another change that I had to adapt to. And I think because my senior year we were integrated, it gave me a chance to know how to adapt to different people wherever I went all over the nation. And I was watching something today, and I think the graphic ran across the television. It said that maybe some of the blacks around the nation, they're trying to stop making it mandatory for us to take the ACT and the SAT test. What do you guys think about that as far as getting eligible to play college athletics? They don't want to make that a criteria anymore.
Well, this is what I was going to ask you, and to go along with that, Coach Burks and Mr. Lott, Mr. Gilliam. One of my questions, and that's the goal, definitely hand in hand with what you're going to say. Seeing that many of the football players now in the last several years have been fighting to get paid. They've been talking about the players, NCAA making so much money off of the players and the players going without. And I guess, I'm trying not to make that two questions, but, by them now wanting to get paid, or some of these players like your O'Bannon that had an issue with the video games and whatnot, making money off of him. That to me, that has what do you think about that, coinciding with Coach Burks with your question about the ACT, the financial part?
Well, I can tell you this. This is Thomas again. I can tell you this. Those tests make it very difficult if you do grow up in a certain environment, and that's how I look at things. Is is, we're products of our environment, and the way we communicate in the Black community is so different than the way white people communicate in their environment. And these tests are geared toward their environment. So the way we speak and the words we use and the phrases we use, though, they're not on that test. So if you're not around that, then you don't know what some of these words mean. You don't know what some of these phrases are. And for so many years as a society, we have been lied to as students. And I don't just mean Black students, I mean Hispanic students, white students, Indian students. They have not told the truth in these books. And so there's so much out there that these young people need to learn. And now, hopefully now, a lot of that's coming to the forefront, that there's been so much lying in these textbooks. Because I tell people all the time, where I grew up, that Christopher Columbus garbage, I didn't know any better. I believed the Santa Maria and all, Pinta, I knew all of that stuff. Come to find out that he wasn't nothing. You can't discover. That's like going into Walmart and saying, I discovered Walmart and there's people already there. You know what I mean? How you going to discover something and people already there? So that right there, definitely, if they don't get rid of it, they're going to have to start teaching what's on those tests in the schools, and starting in elementary school. And like I was saying, my mother started that when I was in elementary school. So, third, fourth, fifth, on through high school is where I got my education, being around all kinds of people and learning different communities and how they get along and different things like that. So that test part of things, I truly believe that your environment puts you in a position to know the things you need to know. And if these tests aren't going to go by all environments, it's going to hurt some people. And when it comes to the financial part of things, athletes need to be paid. I mean, college athletes, I've been saying this since I was in college, we struggle. And the NCAA, they don't care. They don't care. They don't care about students. I mean, student athletes. They hide behind that. Well, the university is spending $200,000 for 4 or
Coach Burks,
5
mute your mic, please, sir.
years. And it's crazy.
Again.
Please mute your mic, sir. I'm sorry. Interrupt, guy.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay.
It's just,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But
I'm sorry.
So the financial part of things, they need to be compensated. And I've been saying for years, if nothing else, take some of that money and at minimum, if you can only a minimum, because it's a lot of schools and a lot of athletes, put $400, $500 away for each one of these students. And when they graduate, then you let them have it. They can stay pro. I mean, they don't have to be pro now, but when they graduate, and that's another reason for you to graduate, because you get this little bit of money to start your life off. Everybody's not going to play pro. They sold T-shirts with my name on them. OU's got a lot, Lott. I could not get a penny of that, and I'm struggling. And people out there making money off of my name. It's ridiculous. Yep, they need to work at it to get these athletes some kind of compensation.
Good question. Coach Burks, what you got to say on that?
I agree. I have a son-in-law. His name is Mark Hill. He's the head strength coach for the University of Kentucky. And I asked him a question one night. I said, Mark, if I was a high school senior, one of the top players in the nation, and I had the opportunity to contact all the parade All-Americans, all the USA All-Americans, let's all go to Grambling State University. What do you think about that? And he said, coach. I don't know if that will work at this time because the major schools, the OUs, the Notre Dames, they're so far ahead in facilities. How can you get a kid to change his mind about going to UCLA and then he goes to Grambling and they don't even have carpet in the locker room? And then you go to OU and you get, you know, audio cassettes, you get headbands, sweatbands, 4 or 5 pair of shoes, uh, all the other things that make, the big schools get. And it will be hard for them to do that. But as you saw last week, I think it was a basketball player that made an announcement that he's going to go to a HBCU next year. And if all the black athletes would do that, not that I'm trying to start a movement, things would change. Because as Melvin said, there's a lot of money out there. I mean, athletes get 4 and 5 pairs of shoes, sweat jackets to go out of town, clothing to wear on the airplane. But as far as money, like Barrett Switzer said years ago, he had to pay for one of his players to go to their own family member's funeral. And the NCAA thought that was wrong.
Yeah,
I gotta go ahead.
Go ahead, Coach.
Oh, okay. You sure? All right. So me and Les, we talk about this a lot, and we never really come up with a. So I'm glad to ask you guys these things all together, but I know his answer, and I think our answers are the same. But do you believe the top athletes today should change things around and boycott the big colleges and go to HBCUs with all the different underlying racism that's going on? And if they do or not, tell me why not.
Well, I'll tell you this, and that's not going to happen. And because
go ahead.
You got to look at the generation that we have now, and it's all about getting money and shoes and cars and houses and all of that. And they've grown up seeing all these things, and they've grown up getting things that, like, for me, for example, we didn't have that kind of stuff, and we were just happy to be outside. They don't want to be outside. They grow up different. They're just different, and they want some of that stuff that being offered to them. And you look at the money that's on the next level, and what they're looking for now is, what place is going to show what I can do so that I can go to that next level and be the next millionaire? So everybody's not going to go for that. They just not going to do it.
I agree with you, Thomas, on that, man. I talk to kids, I still help kids. I got a call from a kid from California today, a California JUCO, that we were talking about, Wes. The guy we were talking about today. We were talking about it. And kids now, I ask these kids, what is the determining factor to make you choose a university? You know what they say these days? How many uniforms you have? Are you with Nike? Are you with Adidas?
That's right.
You with Reebok? Those are the things. How many helmets do you have? They want to know those things. And I asked them, have you ever asked them, what is your graduation rate? Have you ever thought about that? What about graduating from college? How many players do they graduate from their program? They don't even think about those things anymore. So, and what crosses me is that if they're thinking like that, I wonder what the parents are thinking like. Because when I was getting recruited, Barry Switzer came in my living room, and the first person he talked to was my mother, who was a school teacher. And he said, Miss Gilliam, one thing you can bet is Melvin Gilliam's going to have a great opportunity to graduate from college, and we're going to do everything in our power to make sure he graduates. That's the first thing that coaches were saying back when I was getting recruited. But now they coming in saying, Oregon State, we got 12 uniforms. We got 7 helmets. We with Nike. Philip Knight, the owner of Nike, is one of our alums. So if you want to look good, you want to come to Oregon State. OU can say we're with Jordan. Oklahoma State can say we're with Nike, and we got about 12 different uniforms we can wear. We can wear a different one every game with a different helmet. Those are what the kids is going for. But Thomas hit the nail on the head when he said, there's no doubt these kids need to be paid. When I was in college, we got $40 a month.
Wow.
And it was illegal for you to work during the school year. You could only work in the summer. So if you had a job in the school year, it was against NCAA rules. Couldn't do it. I remember coming home and I had nephews. Wes, you probably know my nephew, AG. AG is on this place that it was called Nintendo then, I think. He said, Unc, I'm playing with you. And I said, you playing with me? They had the 88 Oklahoma State team, and they had myself, Barry Sanders, Hartley Dykes, and a guy by the name of David Bailey. David Bailey played with me with the Eagles. Both of us went to the Eagles. So they're using us. Dime of that money. A dime. And they were selling games all over the country. This Nintendo game. So when he says the players should be paid, no doubt about it, man. The university, and I did the numbers on it. Back in 88, I graduated in the School of Business. I did the numbers on this exact thing because I wanted to know. One of my final papers was on this. Back then, if you played a national televised game, this is in the late 80s, you made a minimum of $3 million a game. That's a minimum. And if you know anything about averages, you never make the minimum. You always make the mean, which is the middle. So basically, you made from $6 to $8 million a game on TV. Now, that's if you played one game. Let's look at a school like OU that played 7 or 8 games on national TV. Now, let's say they made an average of $6 million a game. They paid 8 games on national TV. That's $48 million. You think they couldn't have paid players? We know they could have paid players. The NCAA, I did an article, and I said the NCAA is nothing but a pimp-whore relationship. They're pimping these players, making all the money on them and ain't giving them nothing back. At least a pimp would give some money back, but they wasn't giving no money back, and they hid behind, you're getting a free education. I want to know where it's free because I left blood and tears on Lewis Field. I can't tell you how much skin I left on that turf. So when you say it's free, is it really free? So, that strikes a nerve with me because the average person thinks, well, they're getting a free education. My day started at 6 a.m. It didn't end till 10 at night. And I had to go to bed and get up to get ready to do it all over again. I don't know about y'all, but I don't call that free.
Hey, Melvin.
So, yeah.
Melvin,
Yes, sir.
I got to tell you this. Yeah. Y'all got $40 a month?
That's all we got.
What do you mean? Oh, wait a minute, man. You better be glad the statute limitations up because I had to turn you all in. I had to drop a dime on y'all. $40? You know what we got? We got $15 a month for one semester. 15. And at the end of my first semester, the NCAA took that away. We did not get a penny. So, hey, not a penny.
So we was rich. We were rich.
Yeah, yeah. Y'all was eating good, man.
Oh my God. Hey, Thomas, listen to this. My son just graduated from Oklahoma State where he went and played football, right? Guess how much money they getting a month now?
About $600, something like that.
$800 a month.
I knew it.
And they pay for their apartments. They pay for their food. Guys going to college buying new cars because they can make payments every month. Check that out.
They should though. But like you were saying, I tell people.
And that ain't even enough. They should be getting more than that.
No, it's not. But like I tell people, they have to look at, Yeah, they've been hiding behind that education part of things. But the bottom line is
Right.
it don't cost them that much. They're talking about 200 and something $1,000 for 4 years. It
So
don't cost. How much money does it cost for them to put an extra desk in them classrooms? Because you got the professors are gonna get paid the same thing regardless.
regardless,
If there's 2 people
right?
in there or there's 30 people in there, and you put a couple
Correct.
of extra players in there, you move a couple of desks in there, give them some seats in there. It don't cost you nothing to do that. You should feed them. You treat them, you're working them hard and everything. So they definitely need to be paid. And like I said, if you want to keep their amateur status, put $400-500 away a month, and it'll be incentive for them to graduate. You get this money when you graduate. You get this
Correct.
money, and then that's incentive for you to go ahead and finish school. And when you get out of there, you can at least start your life off with a little bit of something. You can get you a car in or get your apartment, might have enough money, a little interest growing 4 or 5 years, and you get you a house or whatever. You probably got kids by then, but you can at least have something you can look back on and say, this is what I did this for.
Thomas, that's a hell of an idea, man. I'm working on a plan right now. As y'all know, Stillwater is going through some mess right now with our head coach, who was the quarterback when I was there, Mike Gundy. We're going with some issues, some systemic racism issues type things. And now they're somewhat listening. So the alumni players at Oklahoma State are trying to put together a plan that is similar to exactly what you're talking about, Thomas. Exactly what you're talking about. We want to make it, as you know, all schools have endowments. Oklahoma's endowment is, I think, it's a little over $1 billion.
Yes, sir.
They have $1 billion endowment. Oklahoma State has one that's about 930 million. Now, a lot of this money is put in this endowment. A lot of it is from football. A lot of it is from basketball, because football and basketball are the highest generating sports on campuses. So they're putting into this endowment. So we're trying to put a plan together that says, okay, if we played football at these endowments, we ought to be able to access some of this money from this endowment. So we're trying to put a plan together, and stuff is going so crazy in Stillwater right now. These people are listening. So this is our time to strike while the iron is hot and see if we can't get access. If you were an alumni player, if you ever played at Oklahoma State, if you stepped 1 foot and were an athlete, you get access to this money. Whether you want to start a business or something like that, you can come, instead of going to a bank, you can come to this endowment fund. Because a portion of that endowment fund is cash. A lot of it is committed monies that people have said, we'll give this amount every year, and they make those commitments. The big alums like Boone Pickens did. He's a big reason that endowment got up to 900 and some million. But Boone is gone now. So now's the time. We got to strike now and see if we can do that. But you're exactly right, man. We should have access to that money, man. We done made millions, gazillions of dollars for them universities. And for them to say, no, we're not going to give you access to none of it, but we thank you. That ain't good enough. That's not good enough.
No, they want more. They want more from you. They want you to keep paying them. They want more. Ticket money, all kinds of stuff.
I wanted to kind of jump ship and move on to a couple questions. This is really for the panel, but mainly Coach Burks and Coach Leslie. What do you think about the historical monuments, statues, and art that's being destroyed around the country?
My personal point of view is, as Melvin and Thomas were just talking about the previous issue, because of everything that's going around the nation with making Black Lives Matter, then you see all the statues being decimated or destroyed, with people making note of how they really feel. Uh, I'm I'm with that. I mean, I hate to say that I'm going to go through the town and tear everything up, but in some kind of way, some people feel like this is the only way we can make a point by doing this. And it's amazing to find out some 100 years later that, like Thomas said in our history books, a lot of things we read were one-sided. Like even the Bible, they say the Bible's not the real Bible. So a lot of things we read were one-sided, and that's all we knew. You know, we grew up hearing Christopher Columbus, you know, discovered America. And now it's like, he didn't discover America. For whatever reason, they're saying that. And you're seeing all these past presidents and Andrew Jacksons and names like that we grew up on. And now you finding out that somewhere in their family tree, there was a little bit of racism. And we've been going, you know, praising them. And now it's like, wow, they really weren't for us, or they really had issues in their whatever categories that they really didn't care about blacks. So on one hand, you know, I think that's a good deal. But at the same time, I hate that now that because of when I say we, I speak on behalf of blacks, I guess. Now now the whites are retaliating. Well, if they tore down this, well, let's creep into the night and tear down that. And it kind of turns into a personal thing. But, you know, again, this is the time, you know, if there's anything a black person needs to do now to make a stand, this is the time to do it, because it's a national issue all over the world. And it showed during the riots 2 or 3 weeks ago when they went into the better part of California, started tearing up things, and they showed that it's just not blacks tearing up these things. It's whites too. Everybody's upset. So that's kind of how I feel about it, if that answers your question.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh yeah.
Agree with Coach Burks. I agree with Coach Burks because I think my thing is this: uh, the Confederate flag. I think that needs to go because if you look at it in the sense of what it is, they were trying to fight it. It's a civil war. Those guys were creating They were doing treason. And by what I read and what I learned, treason is punishable by death in front of a firing squad. Am I right, Coach?
Right. Exactly.
So I'm saying if that's
Exactly.
treason, how can we reward treason? I don't think you should do that. So the Confederate flag and everything, I can't see a statue for a Confederate general. I can't see that. I can't see supporting the Confederate flag. I can't see that because those are treason things. Now, a president that owns slaves, me personally, I can't support that. You know what I mean? I can't support that. That's a tough thing to chew right there.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think there's no way you can say you're for America, but you support the Confederate flag and what it stands for. I don't think those are two oxymorons. I don't think you can put those together. That's oil and water right there. One is strictly against what America is about. Bring me your tired, bring me your poor, bring me your hungry. That's what America is about. The Confederate is saying, no, we want all white. We want black people to be not superior, not equal to. And that's the whole problem, you know, that we're dealing with right now, I think, in our country, man. It's 2020, and we still don't understand each other. We still don't understand each other. What is it coming to when a person that's white can't even understand what we're saying when we say Black Lives Matter? We're not saying white lives don't matter. Maybe we needed to say Black Lives Matter too. Maybe they would understand then. But all we're saying is what we're seeing is, and statistics show, a black person is 3 times more likely to get killed by a policeman than a white person is. 3 times more likely. Even there are way more white people than black people. Black people are, and they got to see something wrong with that. Until we can recognize and understand each other. We got to understand a white person can't understand what it is to be black. I get that. I know that. But they got to find a way to sympathize and see that it ain't never been fair. Think about this, guys. White people done had a 400-year head start on the black person. If we were in a race and you gave me a 10-yard head start, you ain't got a chance. Think of 400-year head start. And then you want me to say, well, it's equal now. You got an opportunity now. Dude, you done took my language. You done took my name. You done took my religion. You done did everything you can to keep me down. But you want me to not be angry, not be upset, and just act like it didn't happen. That's a hard pill to swallow right there. And I tell kids all the time, I ain't saying it's right.
Right.
I'm saying that's the way it is, and you got to find a way to make it work for you.
Amen.
This is what I'm gonna say, and I usually get I'm not gonna say flack, but what happens to us now is well, I'm gonna say this. I'm not gonna say
true.
huh?
So you can say what you want.
Okay, all right. Well, this is what I'm gonna say, and a lot of black people don't realize this, and we really don't realize who we are, Melvin. That's what you were touching on. We don't really remember who we are, and we don't remember our names and who God really created us to be, and that kind of touched on what Coach Burke was talking about. Kind of how I run into a lot of people sometimes that they say the Bible was wrong, but it's not. That's not the truth. What is not the truth is that a lot of people don't realize that the Word of God was it's a history book for one, and it was written for us. And what happens nowadays is that people are waking up to the truth, and sometimes the truth is hard to swallow. So a lot of those people that are with the Black Lives Matter movement that say they're with our movement that's white, they some of those people are woke, are waking up. Some of those people are for us, some of them not for us. But for the most part, what's happening now with our people is that when I hide what's all going on is the fact that I don't know, and I'm gonna back this up. This kind of goes into y'all remember what happened to Nick Cannon the other day? So what happened with Nick Cannon? What happened with Nick Cannon? And basically he told the truth about something that he got reprimanded, and it kind of go back to all what we all been talking about on here with the way they treated each and every one. I mean, Melvin and Coach Lott, as far as the pay, we've never been given our integrity or our rights to be human beings. We've always been used as a resource, or like kind of like I heard a guy say just today. He talked about how I was listening to a lecture. A guy said that how in South Africa they don't call us we're Africans, but they call themselves the whites call themselves Afrikaners. And I'm trying not to get off subject, but the point is that we were always created to be subservient. So now it's the point that what's going on in the height of everything that's going on right now, especially a lot of brothers is waking up in sports. You see what happened to Sean Jackson just recently, again, he made a comment. I don't see where, what he said wasn't wrong. But at the height of where we at now, it's hard for brothers to start telling the truth. Even if you talk about sports, the NCAA really don't want to hear the truth about why they should be paying y'all. Why would Melvin be getting $40 a month, and why would Coach Lott be getting 15 when you're making almost $1 billion a year? You know what I'm saying? It's asinine, but it's one of those things to kind of keep us subservient. That's really what they're really doing to us, is keeping us subservient. But I don't want to get off on that. But I mean, just kind of thinking about what y'all have been talking about, and then we kind of touched on the spiritual aspect of it, and I heard Coach Lott talk about it. But I really like to talk about that aspect of it, because one thing that bothers me with a lot of brothers nowadays, and we kind of talked about that, was Coach Melvin was talking about how the brothers would choose a school by the amount of uniforms, and not necessarily about you graduate. That's what's the graduation rate? That's one of the things I try to teach my kids in my class. And I'm a visual arts teacher, guys, and just be honest. But with my visual arts, I teach art history. And one of the things with art history is that what we come to find out in art history is that a lot of in the Roman period, a lot of blacks were in the Roman were in that area, in those areas, and we were whitewashed. And so a lot of what happens a lot of times is, like Coach Burks said, a lot of times things get rewritten, and we're to the point now that people are waking up, and we waking up to the point where some of the stuff may be not on point, but it's not far off. You see what I'm saying? So we're to the point now, and the Word of God talk about in the last days that the truth is going to start coming out. You know what I'm saying? And that's really what's starting to happen, guys. Is that and again, not to go on a spiritual tip, but I'm just saying, like, this is really what's happening in our climate now. With all things going on, a lot of stuff that's going on in our climate, we're seeing some some real truths.
Let me say something real quick. It won't be long, but as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to anything that upsets people and it's not necessary, for me, it's like when I was coaching, I was in high school, and there were kids, and they didn't mean nothing vicious by it. It was like, "What's up, my end? What's up, my nigga?" Stuff like that. And I know it was a term of endearment, but for me, I would tell them, why would you use something that there's people still alive that is very painful for them? Why is it necessary? So if these statues are painful for people, then why do we need them? I've been raised to be a compassionate person, and there's certain things that it doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me, but it bothers some people. So why do we need something out there that's going to bother people? Put it in a museum. And so for me, that's how we're going to learn to get along. Black people are the most forgiving race on this earth. Because you think about what we had to go through as human beings, and even had to cook for these people. I mean, they could have put poison in them and poisoned them. They could have done all kinds of stuff. But we still are compassionate people and forgiving people. And people out there want to say, well, black people do this and they do that. My thing is, if you treat people like mad dogs, they're going to act like mad dogs. So, yeah, there are some people out there that are angry, and they are doing things that they shouldn't be doing because they don't know any any other way. But for me, it's just simple as, if it bothers people, why have it? And you can talk about your ancestors. And I had some people I was talking to a couple of weeks ago. It's like they great great grandfather and all of that. And then I had to go ahead and let them know, hey, yeah, your great great granddad was probably a rapist, a murderer, a thief. You don't want to hear that kind of talk, but that's what was going on back then. So let's just get the truth out there and stop idolizing idols, statues. Stop that.
Yes,
I
sir.
agree. I agree. Thomas, you hit it on the head. Those things go in the museum. I totally agree. If you want to have them, go create a Confederate museum over there, and that's what you do, because I mean, you couldn't have said it any better than any plan. I live by this, Thomas. I live by this, guys. Life ain't hard. We make it hard. It's simple. Respect others as you respect yourself. This ain't hard. Treat people like you want to be treated.
Say it
That's
again.
not
Say it
hard.
one more time for me.
These are treat people like you want to be treated.
Thank you.
That's not hard.
Thank you. Thank you.
Respect others like you want them to respect you. That's not hard. Be compassionate. How hard is that? That's not hard. But we make it hard. And then a lot of times, man, I really believe that when we're talking about things that are difficult. Oh. Well, when we talk about things that are difficult, we want to change the narrative and make it easier for us to talk about. I mean, that's exactly what we're doing right now. That's what we're doing right now. When we're talking about Black Lives Matter, a lot of people change the narrative because it's hard for them to talk about. Thomas, I don't know if you've been through this. Coach Burks, I don't know if you've been through this, but this has started a lot of dialogue, which is good. We need dialogue. That's where you understand each other. Quality, diverse dialogue about what's going on. I had some guys that I played football with in college that their true essence is coming out, and it ain't pretty. Guys that I battled with, that I went to battle with every Saturday, saying that's my brother. And it didn't matter what color it was, because football brought us together. If they was black, white, brown, red, it didn't matter. If they had on that same uniform I had on, they were my brother, and I had their back. And I'm listening to the way they think and the way they talk right now. I'm like, oh my God, really? You think like that? And these are guys that I thought that would do anything for me, because I would do anything for them. And these were guys I was with for 3 and 4 years in college, playing with side by side, taking showers, eating dinner next to them on the plane, all of that stuff. And it is amazing how the true essence come out when you're talking about difficult issues. The true essence of a person will come out. I believe that. But I truly think if you stick to those 3 things, treat people like you want to be treated, respect people like you want to be respected, and show compassion. If you can do those 3 things, man, you make life so much easier, so much easier. But we got to start sharing that with our kids. We got to start sharing that with a lot of the people we teach and a lot of the people we coach. And because, dude, they are watching. When you think people ain't watching, they watching. So we can't just talk the talk. We got to walk the walk ourselves.
This
And
is
when
what
we
I'm gonna.
start walking the walk,
This is what I want to say
go ahead,
to
Tom.
everyone. This is what I want to say to everybody right now. We can spread this. I want to plant this seed right now. Change. Very few things are ever going to change until things aren't going right. Because nobody wants to change when everything's good for them. Everything's good. Life is sweet. Now, I'm traveling and I'm having fun and I got this, I got money in my pocket and all of this. They're not going to want to change what they're doing. Real change is going to come when things aren't going good for people. So right now is a time for us all to embrace what's going on, because there will be some change because of it.
I agree with that. I agree with that. Can I
So
ask,
as we conclude, go ahead, Coach.
Coach? Can I ask one last question?
Yeah.
And this was my last question for Coach Lott. The last question was, what would you have done differently? I mean, any of y'all can answer this, but what would you have done differently if you were to talk to your younger self coming out of high school as a top recruit? What would you have done differently? Would you would have went to Oklahoma, or what would you have done differently?
I wouldn't have done anything different. I went to the best place I could have possibly gone to, and that was University
Amen.
of Oklahoma. I had a great career. I did some
Boomer.
things that most people don't even get to dream about. I was part of. So I wouldn't have changed a thing.
Awesome. Coach Burks, what would you have done different?
I'll kind of, I can piggyback on what everybody's probably going to say. Like Melvin said, he tells his kids, the people that he mentors, don't focus so much on athletics. Think about getting a college education or vocational education, and it's a lot easier because Father Time, he's number one. And if you don't understand that, you will one day and realize you don't have that speed you used to have, but you always got your brain if you don't do any things to dilute it and, make it cause issues. So that's what I would do. I would instill, even in myself. My mother always told us, you can be president. My brother, you can be a doctor. My sister, you can be a lawyer. And it was like, Mama, I ain't trying to go no school for no 6 years. But when you look back on it, you might have went anyway because you had to go to summer school and night school to be eligible. You're like, wow, I could have went to school for 6 years to be a doctor, and I could have been out now, and I could have been one of the top MDs in the nation. So I would instill in myself as well as others that education is very, very critical and important
Awesome.
to all races.
Les,
Yes,
what would
sir.
you say?
Say it
What would you
again.
do different?
Nothing. I think that God has me here for a purpose. I'm right where I'm supposed to be. I wouldn't do anything different. The life lessons that I've learned. I've had many. I've heard a brother say, "Man, you took a lot of L's," but my L's made me who I am. And I don't think that I would do anything different. I'm thankful for my family, my friends, and the opportunities that I've been afforded. So right now, I wouldn't do anything different. I'm thankful because I can share my knowledge that I have right now with someone else, and especially my students. And to do anything different, I nothing really. I'm living life.
Good. Melvin.
Oh man, I'm with Thomas, man. I made the best decision for me. Oklahoma State was a great place for me. It really let me grow and be me. I was coached by people that taught us to be mentally and physically tough. Coach Larry McGee and Coach Nate Harris taught us that everything is not going to go your way. That's life. That's the way it is. But that don't mean you give up. That don't mean you second guess. That means you find a way to make it work for you. And I'm telling you, I live by that today. I use it in my job today. That's my edge. My edge is my mental toughness. And those people helped me get that. So by the time I got to Stillwater, I was so mentally tough. My high school coach had done everything and prepared me in every way to anything Pat Jones could have threw at me. It was a piece of cake. You get in trouble, you gotta run. You can't run me more than Coach McGee ran me. You want to cuss at me? You can't cuss at me worse than Coach McGee ever cussed at me. So it was a great. I mean, my decision was perfect. It was perfect for me, and some of the successes I'm having today is because of the decision I made to go to Stillwater and OSU.
Awesome. Well, I would say I don't know what I would do different, but I learned two things: believe in yourself and like what you do. Learned that. Also, I learned it's not a crime to fall down; it's a crime to stay down. And I live that every day. Those two things that it was smashed in my head every day. Uh, I went to Carver Middle School. Or I didn't go to Carver. I played for Carver, but I felt like I went to the school on the football team. When I went to Central, I had the gift of having great coaches as well. Football, and I think Coach McGee, this is a Coach McGee, but it filtered to me. Football will take you places. I don't know if it was Coach McGee, but one of the Booker T coaches used to say it. Football can take you places. Uh, and it definitely took me a long way. Uh, as we conclude on the show, um, I want you guys to kind of tell me what you're going to be doing in our communities. Because I know 3 or 4 of us are heavy into community, uh, including myself. But I'm honored to say that all you guys have put a lot into our communities. I want to thank you, Thomas Lott, also for coming on. I know you could be a lot of other places at this time of night. I want to thank you, Coach Burks, as we conclude. Of course, Mr. Coach Gilliam, Melvin Gilliam, you wear many hats in the community, not just as a legendary player in Tulsa. I want to thank also Coach Leslie. If y'all don't know, Coach Leslie, he's ran for city council in his city. He's actually East Sider of Oklahoma City. He stays on the East Side. He's committed to turn the East Side
East
what it
side.
needs to be. Uh, and I'm very proud of him, and I'm gonna do whatever I can to help him. And we plan to do stuff for the North Side and the East Side together. Coach Burks, I want you to kind of close and tell us about this great museum that you have in Booker T. Washington that people need to go see and take pictures of, and then so on as we close.
Melvin and Thomas Lott uh, made a comment about when you asked the question about, or whoever asked the question about, what would you change? And they right off the bat showed their pride by saying, I went to the best university that a person could went to. It fitted their lifestyle. And what I've been doing after graduating from Booker T. Washington and living in the community and watching the athletes grow up, I started creating a museum, which is called the Booker T. Washington Sports Museum and Historical Center, because it dates back to the 100 years of uh, all the athletes, band members, et cetera, that went to Booker T. Washington. And one of the things I'm trying to do is trying to get that place on the National Historical Monument, as well as bring some of the young teenagers to that museum to see how great they can be, not taking anything away from the other schools, because Central has great athletes, McLean, Webster, Rogers, etc. But that's everybody has their own way of doing things, whether it's community involved or being in politics or being on stage. My way of getting to the youth is influencing them to be good people, and by doing that, and my way of doing it is to getting them up to the Boogie T Museum and letting them see how great you can be and how you can continue to add to that history. That's my legacy.
Well, I want all you gentlemen to know that I do speaking engagements. If I can help or come speak at any time, I'd be willing to do that. And hey, this is the world we all live in, and we all got to do our part to try to be the best we can. And I appreciate you having me on. And Melvin knows how to get in touch with me. He knows that I'm always willing to help the youth, to help anybody, to help the youth. And my arms are open for everybody. So I thank each one of you gentlemen for having me on tonight and being able to have a conversation with you.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you for coming.
Oh yeah, and Thomas
Sure.
is real modest. Thomas,
Huh?
what nation is it that we do those camps with? That we do those camps with in the summer?
Oh,
I know we're going to
Creek
do.
Nation.
We're going to
You mean
Creek
you mean
Nation, and we're also going to do it with Osage. Thomas
right?
sets that up, and man, we'll do about 8 or 9 camps all over Oklahoma.
We
just
had
for
15.
kids.
We had 15 wiped out this year. 15.
What college they
Wow.
went to, doesn't matter what professional team they played for, but he has a camp where every player in every position, every station you go to, is run by an NFL player.
Oh wow!
It's a great deal, man, and we'll do 8 or 9 of them all over the state of Oklahoma. And next year, well, it's out, but not only are we going to do Creek, but we're going to do Osage Nation too. So we're going to be all over Oklahoma doing these free camps, and every position is going to pretty much be ran by an NFL guy. So Thomas kind of got that started and going, and we rocking and rolling with it. But that's pretty much what we do. Thomas and I, we get together. We do these golf tournaments every year. We do a big NFL one in September. We usually do one that a guy by the name of Randy Allison, who kind of took over, that we started years ago. We used to do a golf tournament in May. But with COVID, we couldn't do it this year. We're probably going to pick it up next year, or we're going to just stick to doing the NFL one that we do in September. But all the guys come back, we do a dinner, we raise money for all the high schools in Oklahoma. We give $2,500 out to each high school we choose. We choose Oklahoma City and Tulsa, and we give $2,500 to their football program. So, and it's through the Retired Oklahoma NFL Players Association. So we do these golf tournaments. We do a dinner. We do fundraisers. We do a golf tournament in Tulsa and Oklahoma City. And I play.
We visit the Children's Hospital also.
Exactly. We do a children's hospital. It's a big deal, man. So these guys come back. We have OU guys. We have Nebraska guys. We have TU guys. We have Oklahoma State guys. So they all come back to help support what we're trying to do for these high schools in Oklahoma. So those are some things that we're doing to kind of help promote, athletics are some ways that some people is the only way they get to college. So we want to foster that. We want to make sure, but we also stress, like Coach Burks say, Father Time is undefeated. You don't believe it? Ask Barry Sanders, one of the greatest ever. Ask Jim Brown, one of the greatest ever. Father Time wins every time. So, like I tell kids when I speak to them, everybody is going to go pro in something. It may not be football, it may be in business, but you're going to go professional in something. Make sure you're prepared. Appreciate y'all having me on.
Les and we're going to continue this. Les is an aspiring artist. We're going to partner with you and Coach Lott. Of course, you know that about that. I just want to piggyback and tell y'all that's watching that Melvin and Coach Lott have a golf tournament that they throw. And that golf tournament, it's a lot of Heisman Trophy winners there. Matter of fact, in the past, I think they had all of them. If you think you can play golf, you might want to join in and help the youth. We're going to sponsor that tournament, and we're going to sponsor his Black College Emporium going forward. Also, let's not, we have merchandise that we're going to promote. Everyone in this room will get some of our merchandise as up and coming. Is there any questions that you guys have of us? I think I've asked all the questions. Let's ask all his questions. I want to thank you again, everyone coming on the show tonight. I think this is a very successful show, very informational. I learned a lot. And I once again want to appreciate every legend that's on here. We're proud to have legendary men and women on this show every week. Thank you. As
All right.
Coach Burks was showing off all his backdrop earlier before we started. I don't think I'll ever catch up with him. But it's definitely motivational. I'm very motivated by this show and the people that's on the show today. I wish I was an artist. Him and Les got some good art.
I tell my students the first day of school, everybody is an artist in their own way. So you are an artist.
Yeah, you told me that.
Oh, that's crazy. I say the same thing.
You told me that, but I don't know.
Yes, you are. Play, drawing, graphics,
Print,
rapping, singing, dancing, history. Everybody is an artist in their own way.
file,
Working with
open,
clay.
print.
So, Coach Burks,
Right.
are you an artist by? Is that you're an artist by trade? Is that what you?
Yeah, like I said, I'm a retired art teacher. I taught all levels of art, primarily high school. And then I kind of delved off into sports art. So I sell sports art to professional athletes.
Oh, that leads to my last question.
And see, that's not my. Well, I'm less of a sports artist per se. I'm more expressionism and abstract, but
right.
That's my main medium. But I mean, I've illustrated and wrote several children's books, so that's what I'm really into right now. And but that's cool. So your museum is in Tulsa?
Yes, it's at Booker T. Washington High School. It's in the old building.
Okay.
We're gonna go visit it.
Okay. Well, definitely when I'm in Tulsa next time, I need to get up there.
Yeah, just let Coach Henderson know he can contact
we'll get in there.
And I'll fly in from South Tulsa.
Before you go,
yeah, okay. Well, I guess I can't be a comedian then.
No,
okay.
It's funny.
Scratch
That's
that
funny. But before you go, I already asked Coach Gilliam. I've already asked Coach Gilliam for a million things. But all my guests, they gotta always give me a gift. I know I should give y'all gifts, right? But anyway, we do it different here on Loudmouth. So with you two great artists, painters, and graphic visual art expertise, include all my guests and former players on a painting that I can hang in my man cave.
All right. Is in the world of art in relation to like Mr.
Let's get
Johnson,
to
it's called commission. You can sit down with us and show us what you want, and then we'll see how we can make that evolve.
Okay, I'm on a teacher budget. And I know Les
Okay.
laughing. I know him. He already tried to charge me, but I'm on a teacher budget and a black man coming up in a rough world budget.
Yeah.
So just reminding you of that when y'all thinking about charging me. But I got some great players that I've coached. By the way, not this coming up show. The next show we're having about black nutrition during the pandemic. We're going to do that next show. So we're working on that one. That's going to be a great show. It's going to be a lot of things we're going to cover about nutrition and just staying well and healthy through the pandemic. Then that next show, we're going to have Robert Meacham and Michael Bowie on. They're going to talk to us about pro athletes during this time period and how things are affecting them and the way they look at things and how they're going to stay involved during this time. We're still working on it, me and Les, but we're going to have great shows coming up. I want to thank Melvin again and Coach Lott, because without you two, it would be no us. And so I appreciate that. Coach Burks, you touched the many young men in Oklahoma and the north side of Tulsa. There's going to be a lot of people that watch this show that are interested in seeing what you got going on. I probably have told you this before, but I want to personally thank you. Other than my father, I want to personally thank you for being a part of my life and helping me get to where I am as a person. Not just an athlete or former athlete, but some of the same things you taught me, drills, character, and just being a black young man, I'm filtering to these kids today. And I just want to thank you for the toolage and the abilities that you've passed on to me.
Thanks. I thank you most of all for being a positive student of the game.
Yeah, I don't thank you for all the sled rides, but I do thank you for everything else.
All right.
All right, gentlemen.
Have a good
Be
one.
safe.
Everybody
All right.
have a good
Be
one.
safe.
Nice to meet you all,
And,
guys.
all right. Be safe.
All right.
And God bless all.
Everyone.
All right.
Have a great night.
Da-na-na.
Thank you.
Da-na-na.
Signing out from Loud Mouth. One more time.
All right.
Good night.
Mm-hmm. Good night.